Hello, this is Jan from JC WebTech. I create videos with tips and tricks for Elementor and web design in general. And today we are talking speed once again. In a previous video, I showed you how I built an Elementor website that is already scoring quite well and it's quite well optimized for speed even without installing any caching plugins. But as I also mentioned in the previous video, it's the best practice to use some caching plugin also to relieve your server and be ready for some higher amount of visitors on your website. So we are definitely going to see how far we can push this website, and we will see one free plugin and one paid plugin that are both among the best. I will not waste your time with comparing and seeing other plugins. I did this off the video and I brought here the most viable options from my point of view. So let's quickly recap and then dive into the plugins. So how I achieved this score on an Elementor website for a mobile device. Well, the first rule is to use some smaller sized images in the above the fold section, which means the initially visible part, not use the full background image because it will be heavier and will have to be loaded initially. So it's kind of helps to get already better score. Then use fewer fonts, ideally one or two, and host them locally. And the key is to have a good solid hosting. I use Cloudways, and the difference with shared hosting is like night and day, even though the price is not higher. So you can check the affiliate link in the description. Would also help this channel and will help me to make videos more often. Yeah, so next what we did was to unload some stuff with this code. You can all find it in the previous video. Also, if you can avoid using multiple plugins, you can see I have the Elementor Pro Steroids for Elementor actually helps me to build later websites. And yeah, we are going to activate the WebP converter plugin here, but we'll get to that. Another step was to leverage on the speed optimization features that Elementor now starts to ship out, and some of them are still in experiments, but they work pretty well. And if you don't use a lot of third-party plugins, you're quite safe to use them. But of course, test everything, test your website after you do all these optimization steps. And where is very helpful is the inline font icons that will instantly improve your score a lot. Another thing what I do is I don't use the mobile menu provided by Elementor, but I use a pop-up instead that gives me more creativity, freedom, but also actually performs better. So more details in the previous video on that. And again, as I mentioned, this plugin called Steroids for Elementor allows me to use already kind of this flex feature that is coming to Elementor soon by default. So maybe when you are seeing this video, you will have the container widget here, and you can do this by default, that you're not like for every row you don't need to create a section, but you can stack multiple widgets next to each other. So you can see I have here a column, another column, and below is another column without the need of putting another section. So I'm saving some HTML, which helps to the website to render faster. Yeah, and another rule of thumb is to avoid using some kind of animations, because that will lower your score on Google page inside and also on the Google statistics. If you care about the speed, avoid using some entrance animation and stuff like that, or at least disable them when you are optimizing the site. And when you have it fully optimized, then you can enable them, knowing that your site is performing well and it's just the animation. So now let's look what we can do. So once again, here is the score without a plugin, and it's pretty good already for an Elementor website. Thanks to these steps that we mentioned, but still it can be improved, and also there's just should be some caching. So let's see what would work well. And we have here some errors, and we have here some statistics, so maybe let's just see what everything means. So this is pretty much a metrics by Google that is telling you how your website might perform, but be careful, don't mistake it with the actual real life performance and with the ranking factor for your website that you probably heard that page speed is now ranking factor for position in search results. But important to know is that this is based on the real life results, that here we don't see them because there is not enough data. It only shows here, and also in your search console it shows the statistics if you have like 1,000 plus visitors per month. So this is a testing website, so where we don't have this here, but this metric kind of lets you know what you can expect in the future. So if you're scoring well here, you will most likely be scoring well also in real life. And another the important thing to know is that there is no need to completely obsess about this. That is just a part of the ranking factors. And there are many pages that don't perform remotely this well, still they rank very well because, well, the content is king, and also what still matters are the backlinks and other parts of SEO, so there's no need to obsess about this. But we are here exploring like what we can do about it and how far we can push Elementor. So just with this in mind, let's continue. I'll just quickly go through these numbers, what they actually mean. First, contentful paint means like when something when appears on the screen. And here you can see as we don't have the caching plugin in place, it's quite high, although it's still within the Google's toleration, it's quite high. We will definitely lower it. Very important is the speed index. It kind of shows you how quickly it seems like the page is loaded for the viewer. Largest contentful paint is the time that the biggest whatever you will see on the screen is shown. So it's kind of shows you like it's something that has very big impact on the perceived speed. And it's usually something like an image or big header. And yeah, like when that appears, it kind of gives you the perception that most of the things are in place. Time to interactive, it's something that you don't really see. It's mostly when JavaScript is fully loaded, and those are things that happen on the background, but they shouldn't happen like too long. What is important is the blocking time, which is the total of all the times that basically we were waiting, or the browser was waiting for something to load but couldn't do anything. Cumulative layout shift is describing how much things in your page shifted, and this actually has tremendous impact on the perceived speed, because even though your page is loading quite fast, if things are jumping from place to place and changing its position, it looks really bad. And it's also not practical because maybe somebody already wants to click on get a quote button, but the things shift, and instead he clicks on some link that leads out from your page, and he's lost forever just because of that. So it's bad practice and something you want to avoid, but it's also kind of tricky to avoid this. And generally, first you want to have good hosting so that everything is being sent to the browser fast, all the CSS are being loaded fast, and also you want to avoid some very complicated layouts and bloated CSS, because when some CSS is loaded but then it's overwritten by other CSS rules, the content is just jumping and it's no good. So sometimes it's a little hard to troubleshoot where is it coming from, and the rule of thumb is to just have the layout as simple as possible and don't have like uh, too many CSS styles, and don't override them too much by other CSS styles. So with this out of the way, let's look at the results for the first plugin that we are going to test, or that I already tested. It's the Breeze plugin. It's default by Cloudways. It's a free plugin made by Cloudways for their hosting, and there is a bunch of settings. They significantly improved it in the last few months, or generally recently. It's like version 2 point something. It looks much better than it did before. It has a lot of useful functionalities, or it has like the functionalities you normally expect from caching plugins, but it also has things like links preloading, which gives you perceived better speed on desktop, because as I hover over some link, it's already fetching things from that site that I might be going to click on. So then this page loads like completely instantly. So that's very practical. Though it doesn't actually improve the score on Google, but it improves the experience for the visitors on desktop. You can preload the font, which is definitely recommended. It has few more rules and settings. Generally, we can minify and cache things. And yeah, so you're probably wondering, how is this plugin, if you could use it? Well, you could. I had some problem with it. It was constantly giving me the error on Google that the picture in a viewport was lazy loaded. So I created like this hotfix to exclude the picture from being lazy loaded by adding a class to it. So I improved the performance of this plugin a little bit. But it's still like the result is not great. It's just slightly better than without the plugin in this case of this website. And yeah, it's not bad, but it's great. It's just simply, it's free plugin. It's great at what it does, but it's not like outstanding. I tried a bunch of other free plugins that are available in the repository, and they all had very similar results to this. There are like some slight improvement, but actually they even lower this contentful paint, which means for some reason the picture is loading slower. So, and actually the difference between this score and this score is that I also activated the WebP converter for media plugin, which gives me the WebP format of images to be displayed in browsers that support it. So I no longer have this node here, like leverage, this one, serve images in next-gen formats. When I activated these two plugins, Breeze and this WebP plugin, I no longer have it here, this node, so it also improved the score, but not significantly. I would still recommend it to use this. It's much better than nothing, and it would probably show its power and its effect much more if there was a lot of traffic on the page. Then we would see much bigger difference between no plugin and this caching plugin. For a free option, it's a great result, but if you need the biggest power, my best results were with VP Rocket. So I'm going to deactivate Breeze, activate VP Rocket, and I already have here the score, and you can see here we see a significant difference. you are scoring 98% on mobile, which for Elementor website is I think it's amazing. Also with 1.2 seconds of speed index, the result is great. I'm very happy with this result. I could eliminate some render blocking resources, which means some CSS, which actually would allow me, this plugin would actually allow me to bring it probably even farther, but things start to break, so there is no, you don't need to go so crazy that you don't want to break the website. So every time you are playing with these plugins, just make sure that everything works, like mobile menus and things like that. So yeah, so let me maybe walk you through the settings of the VP Rocket more in details. Obviously have the caching enabled, disabled caching for logged in users, because when I'm working on the website I don't want to see any cached content. Maybe I could increase this time because there's no plan on doing changes so often on this website, so it could be higher. I'm minifying the CSS. I'm not combining them because from most servers, including the one that I'm using, is leveraging the HTTP 2, or there is already HTTP 3, and this means that it's a protocol that can process simultaneous requests. So there is no point in sending one big request and waiting for it to happen when you can be sending multiple in the same time. So you practically never want to combine the CSS files. This is the remove unused CSS functionality that would probably improve the score even further, but it would break things. So, or it broke things. It broke my mobile menu when I enabled it. So I'm not going to use it. I'm also not minifying JavaScript because then things can also break. But I'm delaying JavaScript execution here, which definitely helps. Sometimes you need to exclude things like jQuery, etc. You need to test it always, which means exclude that it means that you will not be delaying those particular scripts. So if something is breaking on your website, you kind of need to try and error, see what you need to exclude or not, and definitely start with jQuery if that happens. For media, I'm using the lazy load from VP Rocket instead of the WordPress native lazy load. And the biggest benefit is that it allows me to exclude particular images. So if you remember this image, I excluded from lazy load. It's not loaded with a delay, and I'm not penalized for the score, and also instantly loads with the page load, because otherwise we are waiting for the JavaScript to execute, to be first to load and to be executed, to find out that this picture is already in viewport and then load it, which is the point of lazy load. But we know that this picture will be always already on the screen, so we want to exclude it. This helps also getting your score better and avoid some layout shift. So definitely yes. Yeah, I have the active preloading, which means that it's loading cache in the background without visitors actually visiting the pages, which is definitely useful. And also the preloading, which I've already mentioned, that when you hover over a link, it already fetching the resources from the web page that you're leading to within your website. That's definitely useful for a better experience. Only want to stay away from it if you have like a lot of traffic and you're running out of server resources, then you may want to stay away, but normally it's very useful option. And preloading fonts, again, very useful. I'm not using CDN in this case, but if you are providing service worldwide, it's something to look into and will definitely help. But if you are locally focused with your website, then just you can just pick server where you are located, and you will be fine. With the add-ons, VP Rocket will automatically activate the varnish add-on, which means that it also talks with built-in caching of the server. And when you click on purge or clear cache, it will also clean this kind of like internal cache of the server, so you don't need to worry that there is still something being cached. And WebP compatibility, I don't think it actually works with this plugin that I have installed, so it doesn't really matter. And yeah, I optimize images before I upload them, so I'm not using this, and there's nothing to touch. You can once again look at the results. So this is the free Breeze plugin. It's also nice to also compare the results from GT metrics, because we can look here at the video. We can see at the VP Rocket the content was loaded instantly, like 0.3 seconds, and everything is how it should be. And with the Breeze plugin, we needed 0.5 seconds for everything to appear, so it's also very fast. The LCP we have here is very low. It's very often with other websites, often like in a matter of seconds, and here we are in this low hundreds of milliseconds with VP Rocket like 267 milliseconds for the largest contentful paint. You can see the performance. It's much better here because here we are looking on desktop simulation, while here we were always paying attention to the mobile, which is more important. But it's also a nice comparison here, especially with looking at the video and seeing what exactly is happening and how fast. So yeah, to sum it up, I think VP Rocket is a great plugin to optimize your website, and the more it's optimized already before you install it, the better the result is going to be. But on the other hand, if you want to go with free plugin, or if you don't have the highest budget, I would recommend to rather invest into better hosting first. And with Cloudways, you can use the Breeze plugin, which is good enough to provide the basic functionalities of caching plugin. And then you can step up your game with VP Rocket, but maybe you can do it when your website or your web building business is generating a little bit more revenue. For example, I'm definitely charging my clients a little bit more if I use VP Rocket, and they take advantages of this higher speeds. And yeah, that's about that. And yeah, so let me know if you would like to see like a real case study of optimizing a client's website that is already built, and optimizing it with VP Rocket, and the difference of moving it from shared hosting to Cloudways. So let me know if you want to see that. And I also have a lot of ideas for new videos about like this some more funny stuff. I recently redesigned my website, and I leveraged on some functionalities of Elementor, but also some custom JavaScript like always. So if you would like to see how some of these things are done, let me know in the comments, and I will prioritize those videos above others. So thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one.